This photo was taken this week and I weighed exactly 89.7 kilograms when I took it. Guess which other time I was exactly the same weight? It was when I started my cut in 2018 and I was looking like this. This is the difference. In this recent picture on the left, my waist is 83 centimeters, and in the 2018 picture on the right, my waist was 91 centimeters. This is indicative of a lot of muscle gain, and also shows why a person who's lifting weights shouldn't just be tracking their weight on the scale. They should also be measuring their waist and taking progress pictures. But combining all three of these tracking tools is by far the best way to go. Another thing to mention about tracking your progress is that it doesn't happen in a linear fashion, even when you are consistently losing fat. After your fat cells lose their fat content, they temporarily get replaced with water. And it may seem like absolutely nothing is happening, both visually and in terms of hard numbers. These water holding periods can last up to a couple weeks at a time. And then suddenly overnight, or over a couple nights, you lose a kilo or two of body weight. If you look at my weight loss graph here from these past 15 weeks, you can see this phenomenon happen on multiple occasions. The example of this that is both the funniest and saddest at the same time is right over here. On day 12, my weight was 96.8 kilos, and on day 49, almost 6 goddamn weeks later, it was 96.5 kilos. Now, pretty much anyone looking at these individual measurements would be discouraged, thinking that they've been dieting for 6 weeks and absolutely nothing has happened. However, my average weight for the respective weeks was 98.0 kilos and 95.9 kilos, so that's still a 2.1 kilo difference. This is why I measure my weight every morning and I calculate the 7-day average for each week. If you look at individual days, there are a ton of peaks and valleys, lots of daily variation. Paying attention to those is a great way to have a really bad day often when you're dieting. But if you look at the weekly averages, my weight has gone down at least a little bit every single week, with the smallest increment being 0.1 kilos and the largest increment being 1.2 kilos. I've also been measuring my waist every week, and it has stalled for 2 weeks in a row, multiple times on this cut, but so far it has never gone up from one week to another. In fact, I've done 6 measured and controlled cuts in my life so far, and this very rarely happens. And when it does, it's usually explained by having a really large fast food meal with lots of salt in it, and thus bloating up for the next few days. Body weight averages, measurements, calorie counting. Not everyone is a stats person who likes to analyze these things like I do, but this is the benefit of doing so. Nothing evokes and reinforces trust in the process like hard numbers, and trusting the process is necessary for playing the long game when dieting. It defeats all of the mental anguish that comes from constantly doubting whether what you're doing is really working or not. It is working if you have the numbers to prove it, and you can be 100% sure that it's just a matter of time before the results show. While we are on the topic of numbers and measurements, I'm gonna show you how to calculate your total daily energy expenditure manually. Obviously, you can use a calculator, you can use a smartwatch to get a pretty accurate estimate, but this method is the real deal and the most accurate way to do it. All you need to do for this is to track your calorie intake and your body weight for a given period of time, preferably 4 or more weeks. And the only caveat is that you shouldn't use a period of time where you're gaining or losing a ton of water weight, like the first month of a cut or a bulk. Obviously, the more accurately you track your calories and body weight, the more accurate the calculation will be. I will now show you how to perform this calculation using myself as an example. I've been tracking my calories and weight for the last 15 weeks, but my activity level has only been consistent for the last 6 weeks or so, so I will use that as my measurement period. That's 42 days, and that's the first number we require for this calculation. Looking at my diet logs, I've eaten a total of 112,903 calories in these past 6 weeks, and this is the second number we need. Finally, I've lost a total of 4.9 kilograms of body weight in this 6-week period. However, we need to turn this number into calories, and this is how we do it. A kilogram of body fat is 7,700 calories, and when we multiply it by 4.9, we get 37,730 calories worth of energy. But this is where we encounter a small problem and the only real inaccuracy in this calculation. Because when we lose body weight, it's not just body fat that we are losing. We are losing some lean tissue as well. Mostly water, but occasionally some skeletal muscle as well. It has been estimated that for non-lifters losing weight, these proportions are 75% fat mass and 25% lean mass on average. But since we are obviously all lifters over here, the proportion of lean mass we lose is a lot less than that, and sometimes we might even gain some, under certain circumstances. These ratios will be somewhat dependent on the individual, but realistically I don't think the differences are that big, if you are losing weight at an intelligent pace while training hard and eating enough protein. I'm gonna go with the pretty safe assumption that a lifter loses 90% body fat and 10% lean mass, with most of it being water. So, let's go back to our 7,700 times 4.9 and then multiply the result by 0.9, which gives us our final number that we need, 33,957. We are now ready to make our final calculation. Let's put this all together. I've consumed a total of 112,903 calories worth of food and burned 33,957 calories worth of body fat. So we add those two numbers together and divide it by 42, which is the total number of days my measurement period was. I get 3,496. So that's about 3,500 calories per day that my body burns if I keep up this same level of activity. But what if I had gained, say, the same 4.9 kilos instead of losing it? The only thing that changes in the calculation is the middle part. I still take the total number of calories I've consumed, 112,903, but instead of adding the second number to it, I subtract it from it and then divide the result by 42, which would give me 1,879. Not too great in comparison. Just to ease any anxiety though, something like this would be far and beyond physically impossible for a person my size and activity level. If you are 200 pounds and you're walking 15,000 steps per day and you train 4 to 5 times per week, your maintenance will be in the ballpark of 3,500 calories burnt every day. The kinetic energy and heat that you produce by moving around that much and just being alive has to come from somewhere. And guess what? It can't come from anywhere else except your body. The food that you eat, your glycogen stores, your body fat stores, and occasionally in dire circumstances, your muscle mass. Finally, here is the simple formula if you want to perform this calculation for yourself. If you want to calculate this in pounds, you simply change the 7,700 into 3,500. That's all. Hopefully that was clear and simple enough. This is the way I've always done it, and it's probably the most accurate method you can use, even if not 100% perfect. Eventually I'm gonna make a dedicated video on this topic, but here's a quick explanation on how to do it, if you want to do that for yourself. As for my weight loss results this week, waist is down to 83 centimeters and legs are down to 68 centimeters. A couple weeks ago I had a very active week and only ate about 2,500 calories per day, and I said this: definitely the biggest deficit so far. Should see the results of that in my average weight next week or at least the week after that. And that did indeed happen. I lost 1.2 kilos this week and now my average is below 90 kilos with a total weight loss of 10.4 kilos. Here you can see the difference between this week and my starting point. The differences are very clear now, which you can also see in the relaxed front pose and especially in the relaxed side pose. It looks like I've lost a third of myself, but not a third that I particularly miss. I've still kept up the pace of walking 15,000 steps per day. Having some new areas to explore and new routes to take has definitely helped with that. There are certainly days where I don't feel like walking this much, but I still do. Like I showed in my TDEE calculation, I'm burning 3,500 calories per day, and I'm a person who really loves to eat. So if this amount of walking lets me eat 2,500 to 3,000 calories per day while losing weight at a decent pace, I will damn sure keep doing that. But that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week.